Hey guys, I wanted to give you a 2-year 15,000 kilometer update to my last video. As expected, the DR turned out to be a rather uncomplicated adventure bike with only about 160 kg wet weight that to my standards performs quite well if you tweak some things. This spring it was time again to prep it for a trip that's coming up in August. I don't really know why, but the bike needed a surprisingly rich intake setup after the airbox mod I did 2 years ago. If you're interested in what I did, watch my previous concise video. Top speed is excellent now though, with over 160 km per hour, second gear power wheelies with 1543 gearing are possible. I checked the spark plugs and differences in power delivery at higher altitude, mileage is still bearable. I compared my needle with the measurements MX Rob provided on the R-Riders and I seem to be running with a similar length and width as the DJ Kit needle if you put the clip in the third clip position with the file spacer underneath it. What originally led me on the wrong path was this strange Mikuni mainjet type. It's supposed to be a 157.5 but clearly has a smaller outflow than the 155 here. I'm running an original 157.5 right now. Thanks again Oskenbet, MX Rob and Boda Vidone for your deep insight into DR rechatting. Also, just as an update, I heard that citric acid can sometimes damage aluminium carburetors. Make what you want out of it. Word also goes around that wrapping your exhaust accelerates rust formation and degradation of your header. In fact, my header was already pretty beaten up right when I bought it. Even spot welding it back in Greece started to become a hassle because of degradation, so this year I decided to replace it with a newer used one. The handguards that were already on the bike are too weak and broke both lever tips, so I switched to a Service Rally Pro which are reinforced. They really do their job. That's the state they're in now. The Oxford heating grips are already quite used. Especially when riding sporty they seem to wear out quite fast, although I'm afraid at times I'm guilty of the death grip. Also the provided glue didn't work, but they do really hit your hands. I'm really satisfied with the mirrors. They are produced by the Spain-based company Vigma and are cheap. They don't seem to have an E number though. The headlights I fitted, especially with that plexiglass protector, were pretty crappy. I installed a new, stronger 60 watts, 6000 lumens Cree bulb. It was definitely brighter, but I switched back to the H4 bulb because when LED lights get dirty, they get noticeably dimmer, so you have to keep them clean. Also, they are illegal in Austria. The rear LED lights I tried all sucked badly and didn't last long, so I'm using a halogen bulb again, which is, as far as I can tell, brighter as well. After 2 years of adventures I treated my DR with a Vapor trip computer. It seems to work great. As a phone mount for navigation I had used a Catalyst bicycle mount before. I have to admit that it just wasn't up to the job. I've since switched to the RAM mount, especially with the rubber straps your phone really won't come off the mount. It's worth the money. The rear Continental TKC 80 as seen here lasted 7,000 km. I used it during our Romania trip. It has a good all-terrain rubber mixture but mainly differentiates itself from true off-road tires by the lack of sticky side knobs. Low pressures though make them quite capable, although I try not to go too low due to noticeable tire creep. It's worth mentioning that I have no rim locks. I then tried the Mitas E09 in the rear, which comes a little cheaper than the Conti. It lasted about as long and has similar grip. This is it after 6,500 km. On the front I then tried the Mitas C21 to get that extra side grip. That's what the front Mitas looks like after 3,000 kilometers. I even went on the highway and stuff, not too bad for a cross tire actually. I'm trying the Pirelli MT21 next in the rear, also with new hub absorbers fitted. I removed the helmet lock. I used it like once and I'm not particularly a fan of dogs peeing in my helmet on the sidewalk. The license plate bracket I fitted unfortunately didn't hold up to the vibrations and started cracking. I just stick with the original one. I removed the metal bracket of the original fender extender though. My exhaust adapter was leaking, so I had it welded. It holds up since then, no coal residue anymore and much less backfire. The stock chain guide broke. I decided to give the Warp 9 aftermarket version a try. After a supposed 21,000 km on the clock, I unfortunately had to replace the linkage bearings and wheel bearings front and rear. I have no footage of this swap, but this contraption with just the right nut size worked reasonably well. And recently with 28,000 km of total mileage my voltage regulator went. I bought a Japanese aftermarket part. My engine case savers worked well so far. It rather was the rear brake lever that needed welding back in Romania. After bending one of the putbacks quite badly, I'm trying these super wide ones off eBay for now. I checked for wear on the counter shaft, and unfortunately 1/5, that is 1 mm, is already gone. Probably the aftermarket sprocket that has been used is to blame. I used a 1 mm paper clip and pretty much followed the instruction of this blog entry. It worked for a short time, but load changes are too extreme with the single, so I tried liquid metal for now. The tank comes from the original DR650 pre-96 and holds 25 liters. It fits alright and obviously makes fuel stops less of a problem. It's worth mentioning though that handling worsens considerably if it's filled all the way up. As already said, all in all I'm quite happy with the DR. I hope it's as reliable as they say. I see the bike as a light adventure bike. I'm glad you can do some single trails on it, but there are other much more capable bikes out there for this kind of stuff. How comfortable the DR's engine and frame configuration feel at highway speeds though is quite surprising. Maybe the weight here also plays a role and kind of stabilizes the bike. I think it's not always bad to have this feeling of sitting in the bike rather than on it, which you get on real trail bikes. Well, stay tuned if you wanna watch the next long distance adventure with the DR650. This bike's gonna stay with me for now. Have a great day you all and keep riding. Cheers!